Hey guys, happy Monday. A CNBC News article asks, will the Trump tariffs threaten Hollywood production and box office recovery? Now, I shared this article with no opinion, no comment on Twitter X this morning. We did have a discussion about it in today's pre-market live stream, but man, you guys on Twitter, some of y'all are really emotionally thin-skinned. We can't even share an article without you guys getting upset. And I'm here to tell you, if you are that emotionally unstable that you can't have people talk about news affecting the industry without getting offended, you probably should not be investing because you aren't emotionally built for this. But in this video, we're going to go through what you guys missed if you weren't on the live stream today and talk about some actual data. Is this article FUD? Is there some facts here? What are the real facts? Let's get right into it. I do like to share news articles with you guys that affect the movie industry, whether they're true or not. That is why I share them, to hear your opinions, especially to hear from some of you maybe that know more about a topic than me. What are you thinking? Why are people saying this stuff? Is there any validity to these articles? That is good discussion to have. And if you're the type of person trying to shut down those type of conversations, then that's probably not the type of person that I care to interact with. Discussion, sharing opinions, educating is always beneficial to everybody. You never know what you're going to learn by having an actual conversation. Let's go through what this article says or wants us to think. Is there any validity behind this headline yet? And then look at some actual real data and talk about other possible ways to think about this. It says here in the bullet points that Trump's tariffs could threaten a long-standing relationship between Hollywood and Canada. Could. Nothing solid here yet. Second bullet point, some fear that a trade war with Canada could cause the U.S.'s northern neighbor to retaliate, potentially rescinding sought-after tax credits for film productions or closing stages to U.S. studios altogether. Again, it's a fear. It's not a reality yet. Third bullet point, concerns are growing that higher tariffs across sectors could affect moviegoers' wallets and in turn threaten box office sales. Same concern that applies to every single industry in the United States. With the tariffs, people are worried about prices increasing and consumers having less disposable income. Less disposable income means that people might have less money to go spend on different things, including entertainment. Why was the movie industry the headline today? Why not the NFL? Why not basketball? Why not concerts? You know, it's always funny that the movie industry is the first go-to that these headlines jump on when something like this happens, isn't it? Known as Hollywood North, Canada has been a bustling production hub for American film and television series for decades. And that is true. We can see here in this table from Statista, the increase of theatrical movies produced in Canada has been nothing but increasing, with the latest data we have from 2023 at 149. Some fear, as it says here, that Canada could rescind those tax credits that the movie production companies from the United States get, which would make it more expensive to produce movies in Canada. But I'm going to drop a link for you guys in the video description of the United States tax credits by state. And guess what? There are a bunch of them, guys. Almost every single state has rebates or tax incentives to production companies, average around 20 to 30% of their production costs, usually reimbursing the movie production studios for labor if they are sourcing labor in the state. Here in the great state of Texas, we had in 2024 up to $200 million available to movie companies for a rebate of up to 20% for all state resident cast and crew. Now, Texas has had a up and down relationship with the movie industry and these sort of incentives. I remember when I was doing movies and TV 10, 15 years ago, there were non-stop productions available here in 2012, 2013. The budget back then was $95 million. And then the next year, the state legislature cut those incentives by 2/3, cut it to $32 million, and boom, Hollywood disappeared. Hey, Canada, guess what happens if you cut the incentives? Nobody is going to come to Canada to film movies. They will find one of those states that I listed on the webpage that I just showed you guys, and they will go where they get the incentives. So it's not really a threat for Canada to cut the incentives. The movie industry will just pivot and go somewhere else. Speaking of somewhere else, Hollywood, if you're listening, Dan Patrick, our lieutenant governor here in Texas, is proposing a massive boost for film incentives up to $500 million. Let's hope that that goes through the Texas legislature. The second bullet point in this news article talks about the tariffs putting pressure on production budgets. But then they go on to rebut their own bullet point in the next two paragraphs, saying that most studios source materials locally for their productions. It is rare for a LA-based set to bring in lumber from Canada, for example. Additionally, many of the line items on the typical production budget are rented. Lighting, cameras, and other production equipment come from studio warehouses and are leased for the duration of the shoot, insulating production costs from higher tariffs to an extent. The final bullet point says that concerns are growing that higher tariffs across sectors could affect moviegoers' wallets and in turn threaten box office sales. Film industry members who spoke to CNBC said that they were worried that if customers start to tighten their purse strings, trips to the theater could be among the expenses that get cut. So could expenses like Netflix or Hulu or Disney. But for some reason that isn't mentioned here. I wonder why. We often talk about the movie industry being recession-proof, and maybe there's a discussion to be had here about the difference between a recession and inflation. That's maybe a discussion that we could have down in the comments. But let's look at that actual data about what happened in the last official United States recession, 2007, 2008. You can see here in terms of domestic box office, the box office continued to grow despite a recession. Total admissions in terms of butts and seats did go down a little bit, but the movie theater companies responded by increasing that average ticket price. And so you get the net result of the domestic box office continuing to grow through a recession. Will it happen again if there's another recession? I don't know. We just have the previous data to rely on, and I can't tell you what is going to happen, but I will put a link to this article in the video description, and you can go reference that yourself and make up your own minds. The article closes out with this statement. Industry experts told CNBC that Hollywood will navigate whatever consequences come from Trump's tariffs. However, it likely will have a harder time dealing with any pullback in consumer spending. I'm just going to say this. We're in day one of the Trump tariff paranoia and mania. And as I am filming this video right now, I'm already seeing news articles coming out saying that Mexico and the United States have agreed to pause any tariffs for 30 days. Maybe that happens with Canada too. As I said in the weekend video, the number one thing that needs to happen is these heads of state, these leaders of these countries need to come together and work this stuff out. Could there be some effect on box office from people cutting back on spending? Maybe, but we're way early in that discussion. How any potential cutback in consumer spending affects any one particular company is, first of all, going to be dependent on, are we going to have a cutback in consumer spending? Might be a little bit early to have that conversation, although it should be on your risk list. I don't think it's wise to ignore risks. Just be aware of them. So as you're making decisions about your investments, you're factoring those risks into whatever decisions you make. That is my thoughts and my recap on this article and the data I look at to validate if there is any truth to the bullet points being given to us here. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think. Thank you for watching all the way through. I am Tony Denaro, and I will see you on the next video.